People hear the phrase, "my engine is burning oil," and they immediately panic. They think it's a bad engine, worn out motor, huge repair bill. But here's the truth I tell people at the store every day. Almost every modern engine burns some oil. The real question isn't if it's burning oil, it's why, how fast, and what oil loss is actually telling you about the health of the engine. If you don't understand the difference between normal consumption and catastrophic failure, you end up reacting with fear instead of managing the machine. Oil burning isn't a single failure, it's a symptom. Think of it like a fever. A fever tells you something is happening inside the body, but it doesn't tell you what the disease is. There are three main paths that lead to oil loss. Some are basic physics, some are tied to engine design, and some are accelerated by the oil you chose to put in the crankcase. The mistake most drivers make is treating all oil consumption like the engine is dying. Most of the time, it's not. It's just responding to stress. Let's start with the one nobody sees, volatility. Oil doesn't just leak, and it doesn't always get burned directly into the combustion chamber. Some of it evaporates under heat. And in the industry, we measure this with something called the NOAC volatility test. That's when you heat up the oil and measure how much of its weight disappears. All oil loses some mass when they get hot. The difference between a budget synthetic and a high margin synthetic can be massive. If your oil level slowly drops over 5,000 miles, no leaks, no blue smoke, and no warning lights, you're probably looking at volatility. The oil is literally boiling off, leaving the heavier components behind. And this gets much worse in heat like we have in Florida. Turbo engines, long intervals, and lower margin oil formulations pushed past their limit. The second is ring pack deposits that leads to mechanical failure. And this is where oil choice really determines engine life. Your pistons have oil control rings. Think of them like a squeegee on a window. Their job is to scrape excess oil off the cylinder walls and send it back into the crankcase. When lower quality oil breaks down under heat, it doesn't just disappear, it leaves behind varnish. That varnish builds up behind the rings and literally glues them into place. Once those rings are stuck, they can't spring out and touch the cylinder wall. The squeegee stops working. Now oil slips past the rings, stays in the combustion chamber, burns, and exits through the exhaust. That's when an engine officially starts burning oil. And here's the dangerous part. This becomes a cycle. Stuck rings cause oil burn. Oil burn creates more carbon. More carbon sticks the rings even further. By the time you see blue smoke, the damage is often already done. And the third path is through the PCV system. Modern engines recycle pressure from the crankcase back into the intake to be burned off. That pressure is called blow-by. It's basically combustion gases that snuck past the piston rings. And those vapors always contain a little bit of oil mist. That's normal. But here's where it goes wrong. If your oil is thinned out, either from extreme heat or fuel getting into the crankcase, it turns into a much finer fog than the system was designed to handle. When that heavy blow-by pressure rushes out, it carries that oil fog right along with it, straight into your intake. You won't see a puddle on your driveway, and you won't see a cloud of smoke behind your car. You just see a steady loss on the dipstick, because the engine is literally breathing its own oil. You're not leaking it, you're consuming it. And now you're thinking, why didn't my 1995 truck do this? Because modern engines are built very differently. To meet fuel economy and emissions targets, manufacturers now run hotter, use thinner oils, and use low-tension piston rings. Low-tension rings reduce friction. All of this improves performance and efficiency. But it makes oil quality and oil change intervals far more critical than they were 20 years ago. I don't look at all oil consumption with panic, I look at it as feedback. If consumption is slow, stable, and predictable, say a half a quart every 4,000 miles, that's information. It tells you how your oil is handling your driving style. But when consumption starts to accelerate, your engine is telling you something's wrong. Either the oil is breaking down too fast, or the rings are starting to stick. Ignoring that feedback is how a $100 maintenance decision turns into a $5,000 engine replacement. This is why I don't treat oil like it's a product you just grab off the shelf. It's a system. Oil burning is common. Not understanding why it's happening is the real problem. If you found this helpful, mash the subscribe button. I'm Chris from Beachside Auto Parts. Thanks for watching.